Hola estudiantes de Español 2, hoy es día B y vamos a continuar con las lecciones de español. Perfecta. Para empezar hoy, yo tengo una cosa cómica y dice agua con gas. So, es una cosa de la cultura. So, if you were to go somewhere Spanish speaking, you might ask for agua, and they might ask if you want con gas or sin gas. Just meaning, are you looking for the bubbly, like sparkling water, or are you looking for just like regular water? So, agua con gas. Preguntas del día. So, algo un poco diferente. Your question is, ¿qué animal es más rápido? So you're going to come up with a complete sentence. So I've given you a whole bunch of options here you might choose from. So which one do you think es más rápido? So you're going to give this animal is the fastest. Or, ¿qué animal es más inteligente? ¿Qué animal es más fuerte? ¿Qué animal es más interesante? And then if you should finish those 4 kind of quick questions, how else might you ask a question to say, what animal es, like, ¿qué animal es más pequeña, maybe which is the smallest, or la más grande, etc. So see what you can come up with. You also could ask the question, what animals you like? So, ¿qué animal te gusta? Or you could change it and say, te gusta, and ask about a specific animal. All right, so we are going to jump into the present tense. So we've been talking about what people like to do. We're going to start talking about what various people do. So present tense, using the correct subject pronoun, so that being the yo, to, la, usted, and the appropriate form of a regular verb. So first off, if your group has not yet finished the ¿Quién te gusta actividad? That is the one on the green sheet. You're going to go ahead and get that done if you haven't already. Then you're going to do some talking or some práctica y algunos apuntes de los verbos en el presente, so your present tense verbs. All right, so let's start muy básico. ¿Qué es un verbo? What's a verb? So, la definición, or una definición, says, es una clase de palabras. So, it's a class of words con la que se expresan acciones, procesos, estados o existencia que afectan a las personas o las cosas. Tiene variación de tiempo, de aspecto, modo, voz, número y persona, y funciona como núcleo del predicado. Muchas palabras en español. So first off, let's start. It's a class of words. All right, we can agree. It's a grouping. It's a way we're going to put those together. Specifically, and that's where the flecha roja is here, que expresan acciones. So your verbs are the ones that are going to give the action. What is it that's happening? The definition goes on and gives us a whole bunch more about the processes, states, or existence that have an impact on people and things. We can have various times, modes, voice, number, person, all sorts of things that are impacted. But the part I need you to walk away with this today is that a verb is the action. It is what a person or object does. So, verbo es una palabra de acción. It's an action word. All right, so in the present, you need to know 2 things as you're working with any of your verbs. And so like this entire list, all verbs, so they're all actions. So to read, to write, to camp. The way that they're written here is in the infinitive, which is an unchanged verb. So it means to do that action. So for example, hablar by itself means to talk. But we can change it to identify specifically who it is that does that action. So we're going to look at today how to actually go about changing those. And specifically, we're going to focus on the yo and to forms Depending on time, we might kind of briefly get into the rest of them. But to start off with, at least, we are going to work with yo and to. So 2 things you need to know when you're working with verbs in general, but specifically in the present tense here. You're going to drop the ending. So you're going to take off the AR, ER, IR, and you're going to put something back. Okay, so you're going to take something off, put something back. So for example, with the verb cantar, which is to sing, we would drop the ending, which is AR. So we would be left with CANT, and then we're going to put something back. Now, if we wanted to say that I do that, that's going to say that we're going to put an O. So we would take CANT, we would put an O on the end, and that would now represent I sing. So unlike in English, where we have to use 2 words to do that, and we have to say I, so the subject pronoun, and sing, in Spanish it all comes together, and within 1 word, based on the ending, we can do all of that. So canto. All right, well, as I mentioned, there are 3 different types of infinitives. So we have our verbs that end with an AR, ER, and IR. And for the most part, they're going to consistently follow the same pattern. So in the yo form, we are going to take something off. We're going to drop the ending. So we're going to take off the AR, ER, IR. And in the yo form, so the I form, we are going to add an O. So I've given you 3 examples, 1 for each verb type. So AR, we have viajar. So we're going to take off the ending, drop that ending, AR, and add an O. So viajo, I travel. For an ER verb like comer, so to eat, drop the ending, so drop the ER, add an O, you have como. And for an IR verb like vivir, to live, again, we're going to drop the IR ending, so we have viv, V-I-V, and then we're going to add that O on. So vivo, I live. So, por ejemplo, yo vivo en Lino Lakes. I live in Lino Lakes. All right. So for those of you that are a little bit more analytical, kind of like to see how it works, comer. So think of it this way. Comer is going to drop the ending. So we're going to take off the ER. We're going to add an O. So when it's all said and done, you end up with como. So I've got 4 more verbs here. Bailar, to dance. Ayudar, to help. Beber, to drink. And escribir, to write. Take a moment. I want you to jot down what each of those would look like if I did it. So did you end up with bailo, ayudo, bebo, and escribo? Excelente. So for the most part, these verbs that you have, with the couple of exceptions where we've already talked about, like ser and estar, ear, for the most part, this rule is a flat across the board. So it doesn't matter the type of verb it is, you're going to drop that ending and you're going to add an O. All right, well, what if I want to ask the question, do you do something? Or maybe I just want to say you do this. So for the to form, so the informal you, again, rule number 1, we're going to drop the ending. So we're going to take off that AR, ER, IR. But this has a slight variation. So for an AR verb, we're going to add back on an AS. So montar, to ride, becomes montas with an AS. But for both an ER and an IR verb, we're following the same pattern, but instead of an AS, we're going to be adding back an ES. So comer drops the ER, adds the ending of ES, and you have comes. So you eat. So I could ask the question, ¿comes mucha pizza? Do you eat a lot of pizza? En mi casa, sí, comemos mucha pizza. Or I could ask the question, do you live somewhere? So vivir, drop the IR, so drop that ending, add an ES for the to form, and we have vives. So I could ask the question, vives en Maple Grove? Do you live in Maple Grove? All right, so again, comer, take off the ER because it's an ER verb, add on an ES, and you end up with comes. What about bailar, ayudar, beber, and escribir? Take a moment, drop that ending, and add back on the appropriate one for the to form. Oh, got ahead of myself. Bebes, ayudas. Oh, look at that, I did it twice. Excuse me. It's bailas. So B-A-I-L-A-S, ayudas, bebes, and escribes. So far, so good? All right, vamos a practicar. So we're going to take these two along with la lista de verbos, and we're going to put them together and do some gimkit in class today. So within this one, you're going to be given a verb, and you're going to have to make sure that the sentences match or just that verb form matches. So if it says I do something, you're choosing your ones with O. If you do it, it's ending with an AS, ES, or ES. Yep, AS or ES. So, una pausa. Go ahead and get you logged in, and we will do some practica. All right. Now that we're getting really good at it, it's your turn to put them together. So we're going to play a little bit of 20 preguntas esta mañana. I'm going to grab my papel. All right. So, cada persona necesita un papel amarillo. Y este papel tiene dos lados. The two sides are exactly the same. It's just so that we have twice that we can play. So, working with your table partner. What you're going to do first and foremost, I want you to take a look at that list of activities. So we have ayudar a mi mamá, beber mucha agua, caminar con el perro, cocinar para mi familia, so to cook for my family, comprar un regalo, to buy a gift, correr con amigos, descansar, so to rest, leer una novela, limpiar la casa, mirar un partido de fútbol norteamericano, pescar en un lago, so to fish in a lake, practicar un deporte, sacar fotos, tocar un instrumento, tomar Coca-Cola, so you're going to drink or take in Coca-Cola, viajar con mi familia, and visitar a mis abuelos. So first, on your own, I want you to choose 5 activities that you might do in a typical week. And what you're going to do is you're going to choose them from the list on the left, and you're going to write them in the yo form on those lines. So for example, if I wanted to say, I drink a lot of water, so I would use beber mucha agua, but I have to change beber. So I'm going to drop my ending, take off the ER, and I'm going to add an O because I do it. So I would write bebo mucha agua. So you're going to choose a total of 5 things. If you do nothing in a typical week, pretend. Pick 5 things, okay? But do not, es importante, do not show your pareja, your partner, okay? You're gonna make their life way easier. All right, now that you have those, you're going to take turns asking your partner if they do various things. So you can choose anything from that list, but now you're gonna put it in the to form. You're gonna say, do you do this? So the whole do part, that's an English thing. So in Spanish, we would just say, you drink a lot of water. So beber, we would drop the ending, so drop the ER, and we're going to add an ES because it's an ER verb. So bebes mucha agua. My partner is going to look at their list of things that they wrote, and if it's one of the 5, then they're going to say, yes, I drink a lot of water. Sí, bebo mucha agua. If they didn't write it, then their answer is no, even if it's something maybe they typically do. So they would say, no bebo mucha agua. So you're going to alternate back and forth until one person finds all 5. All right, once you finish the first one, you're going to reset. So you're going to flip your papers over. You're going to choose 5 new things. Follow the same pattern. So you're going to write them in the yo form, and then you're going to alternate asking questions until you're able to figure out the 5 items of your partner, or they figure out yours first. All right, so back to your apuntes, back into your notes. So I have una canción for you. It's called Conjugations Back. It's enjoyable. So in your cuadernos, wherever you started your notes on the yo and to, on your forms, your present tense verb endings, I want you, as you listen, to see if you can figure out what the other 3 endings are going to be. So what do they look like for the él, ella, usted form, for nosotros, and for ellos, ellas, ustedes?